as she now has to take on the world champion Shane Van Boening, who came through a real scare earlier today, as we'll discuss. He's back on the table now, looking to claim a place in winners' qualification. So what sort of chance has she got of making an impact here, Jeremy? And what are going to be the deciding factors in terms of how this match goes?
Well, of course, the start always has a big part to do with anyone that's looking at an underdog situation. And I think that match earlier that Shane played doesn't do Margaret any favors in this match, to be honest with you. Not that Shane is one that will ever let up, but he realizes that these players are talented, and the way the break is, it can allow them opportunities to get into the match if they get comfortable. So I think Shane's going to keep that, from getting any easy openings for Margaret to get started. I think Shane's going to be on his toes. I mean, like I said, he normally is on his toes, but it didn't do Margaret any favors, Shane having that scare earlier.
Well, let's talk about that for anyone who didn't see it. He was playing Joey Tate, and Tate was leading 5-1, the young American player. Van Boening turned it round. It was 7-all, and it looked as though Tate was going to lead 8-7, and then had a moment that he's just going to find it so hard to get over. He potted the 5 instead of the 4, which was still on the table. Van Boening ended up winning that rack. There was still a chance for Tate in the next rack at 8-7 down, because Van Boening scratched from the break, but Tate potted 1 ball, hooked himself in doing so, couldn't extricate himself from the situation, and left Van Boening a chance from which he closed it out at 9-7. It really was the match of the tournament so far.
Yeah, and Margaret, I watched some of her match, watching some of the other American players earlier, and she played super solid, really smart, really good stroke, by the way, can move the cue ball, can do things. So again, with some opportunity, I think she'll take advantage of it. I think it's just a Shane Van Boening that's just going to be on top of his game after that last scare.
And very swiftly, he takes the opening rack to lead 1-0. You might notice she's listed there as Margaret Fefilova Styer because she's married to Tyler Styer, US Mosconi Cup player. Now some scores from this round. Eklund Kachi has regained the initiative against Vitaly Patsura of Ukraine, pulling away from 2-2 to lead 5-2. 7-all now between Petri Makinen and Wu Ku Lin. Tim de Ruyter, not sure we confirmed that one for you, but he has beaten Zaid Al-Shariti of Syria by 9 racks to 2. Mickey Kraus has won 9-6 against Chris Alexander, and will now play last year's runner-up Lucius Yap, who beat Mark Vidal Claremont 9-4. And we can confirm Darren Appleton has won 9-4 against Riku Rompainen and will now play Roberto Gomez. 1-0 here.
Well, we're going to see a safety here, and probably a very good one underneath the green 6 and the pink 4, banging the 2 away. Should be a very difficult kick shot situation for Margaret for her first time at the table, and I'm not sure what the worry is, just maybe deciding what's the best way. This type of shot, remember, you always want the cue ball going slowly into there. See how it wasn't moving fast, of course, stay in control. And now Margaret, knee deep to start her campaign in round 1 of the winner's side.
You might notice she's got an unfamiliar flag there, you might say. Well, that's because she's playing under the banner of authorised neutral athlete, as all the players from Belarus, her country, and Russia are this week for obvious reasons. She's from the Belarusian capital, Minsk, and is 25 years of age.
Yeah, and she's improved a lot. I saw her play a lot of good push-out situations in the last match. Not a lot of nice safeties, good kicks. So she's going to have to bend this a bit to have any chance. She could try to tie up the 4 and the 6. I think that's maybe what she's looking at now. Very difficult, though. I don't know if she can get thin enough on the 4 to really do anything with that. So she's going to try and maybe edge the 6 up on top, maybe. Yeah, just there wasn't a whole lot to improve her situation, or even more so, make Shane's ball in hand situation more difficult.
Yeah, just a horrible situation to be in for your first shot of the match. You come to the table and you've got an impossible conundrum to figure out. I always think someone in this situation should just look at it as a free hit, really, and nobody's expecting anything of her in this match. We've seen a lot of players lose matches 9-0, 9-1, so even if that was to happen, no disgrace at all. And if she can get those thoughts into her head, then maybe she can do a bit better than that. But she's got to get some chances first.
Yeah, that's the problem I think she's going to face. I think Margaret's going to perform when she gets her chances. It's just a matter of what SVB allows. And I think Margaret definitely, you know, she's got her game face on. You can tell, but I think she knows she's here to soak this in and try and gain some experience. Not a player, you know, there's, you know, legitimately, that's how great our sport has become. Probably, really, I think 40 guys that can win this tournament, 40 players, you know, but there's a lot of them here that, of course, cashing is great, getting that match time experience, trying to improve their game, and looking forward to future U.S. Opens.
Shane Van Boening has done well in past US Opens, winning 5 of them, and he's won the first couple of racks here.
Shane, of course, reigning world 9-ball champion, and him and Filler have already been selected off of points to their respective Mosconi Cup teams.
Yeah, and that's a situation I think we'll be talking about a lot as we get towards the business end of the event, because another 2 places to be decided on both teams this week, and then the captain's picks, Jeremy. What a task that's going to be for you.
Yeah, it's. I think both captains have situations to kind of get through in that regard, but we're definitely going to have some drama this week. I think in more places than one, in my opinion. Whether you think about rankings, whether you think about, you know, I did a podcast, you know, several weeks ago talking about the Mosconi and the players, and, you know, what players are going to make their argument this week, you know, make it stick out in my head or Alex's head to say that they should be on the team.
Do you find yourself slipping into it during the year thinking, okay, if these guys make it, maybe I'll pick these guys, but then again, if one of those guys gets in, maybe somebody else will come into the reckoning? Is it hard not to keep thinking about all the possibilities all year long?
Yeah, it is, because it's, you know, it's important to us as Americans, and I'm sure the Euros. It's a huge event. You think of combinations of players, you know, a few years ago, the way it came down, I didn't want 2 rookies on the team at the same time, even though I think Tyler and Chris could have played together at that time, but I thought best not to. So, you know, Corey Deuel got in that 5th spot, I thought, because of that. So there's all kinds of combinations you think of.
Well, we said Fefilova needed chances. She had one there. It was a bank shot, but wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, that looked a little 50-ish maybe. I didn't know if he was trying to come for the side, and now he's got a little bit of a funny angle, even though he's close to it. Now, the good thing is I think he can hit with a top English. Well, he's going to try and get to the short pocket on the 3. I thought he may come between the 7-8 off of one rail, play the 3 up long. He's going to pound it. But Shane loves that, loves to unleash the cue.
As we've said, he is the reigning world champion, having at last won it for the first time back in April of this year. And he beat the then world champion Ronnie O'Cano to win this title for the first time at the age of just 24, 15 years ago now. Yeah, between then and 2016, he ended up winning it a total of 5 times, so tied with Earl Strickland, and this has been the narrative at so many US Opens in recent years, every time since then, in fact. Can this be the year when he breaks the record and becomes a 6-time champion?
Yeah, his last win, super impressive. I think it was Josh Filler that put him on the loser side before he came back through. I only know that because he beat me in the 5th, 6th position that year. But yeah, Shane's pretty amazing.
He ended up beating Jason Shaw in a close one to get to the final. And beat Chang Young Lin to lift that title.
Yeah, and I think in his 5 wins, I think he's beaten Dennis Aculo twice in the final, and also Ronnie Ocano once. So the Filipinos have not liked SVB in the final of that U.S. Open. Tricky here. I think he can get around the 6 and the 9 to float into position down the table, but it's going to be touchy. It looks like just the top with the hair right gets him around the 6 and past the 9, I thought. Pretty routinely, he sees something else, which is probably more accurate than what I see. He is at the table and the greatest player in the world the last 15 years.
Every time you say something like that, they go and play one of the worst shots you'll ever see from them. He's meant to be your mate, JJ. Don't say things like that about him.
Yeah, he got very involved in the cue ball, and like I said, I didn't really see an issue. He wanted to go into the 6 and try and hold position on the 5 that way. And just caught that inner point going in, and as the week goes on, the pockets are going to tighten up, Michael.
Just to pick up on what you were saying, 4 of his 5 US Open finals have actually been against players from the Philippines. The first one that I mentioned against Ocano, a couple against Orcolio as well, Lee Van Corteza as well in there. So the last one against Chang Young Lin, the only one that wasn't against one of the always strong Philippines contingent.
Yeah, and if you look through the years in the finals of the US Open, Filipino players, there's quite a few Filipinos that could have that title. Jose Farica was beaten 2 or 3 times in the final. Efren was beaten in the final before he finally snapped it off. I think Alex was maybe beaten in the final before he won it also. Did he lose to Ralph Souquet, I believe? Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And won it 3 years later.
Right. So I remember watching that. I believe it was a race to 15 in the final that year. It may have been 13, but...
Yeah, the one against Souquet, it was 13-11.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the present day, Margaret Fefilova Styer, as she's known these days, has an opportunity here to do what so many players we've seen coming in as the underdog haven't managed to do, and that's get a rack on the board early on. And of course, that can be so important in setting the tone. So often in these big open events, you see players so far behind that by the time they do get a chance, under so much pressure, they can't make the most of it.
Yeah, well, Margaret, what I saw, kept it very simple in her first match, which I love. But then when she needed to come with a shot, she could work the cue ball, no problem. So I think she'll get out here, and we'll see what the break shot does for her in game number 4.
There aren't many sports, if any, where you can see women competing on such an equal basis with men and registering good wins over them. Pia Filler, Kelly Fisher, and others have done it so much in recent years. Very good signs from Margaret Fefilova. The first pot she had a chance to go at, she missed, but it was a bank shot, wasn't guaranteed by any means. When she got that chance, she took her time, looked very comfortable with the situation, He's very pleased with the position she's now in this match, because already she's got one on the board. It only trails 2-1. Now let's have a look at some of the other matches. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, who's been doing so well this year, and of course got to the UK Open final in one of these style of events. Only 7-3 down against Jere Virtaranta of Finland. Another Finnish player, Petri Mäkinen, on the hill against Wu Kulin. That one is 8-7. Eklund Kachi really struggling to shake off Vitali Patsura. He's leading 5-4 at the moment. Victor Zielinski 4-0 up on Corey Jewell. Daniel Massiol now has a 5-3 lead over Jeff Beckley. And while Margaret is playing here, her husband Tyler Styer is in action over on table 10, but he's lost the opener to Lucas Fracasso-Werner.
Well, Lucas, another fine young player from Connecticut, had a nice win after trailing earlier against one of the, of course, always strong Chinese Taipei players. Tricky shot here on the one, hard to pass it, but I guess you just have to roll forward to take another long shot on the 2. The 3's near though, so she can get this one down.
What did you make of the technique there, JJ, for our first look at her break?
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I saw her break the balls pretty effectively in her first match today, making the one on the side quite often. She's got to make probably a little adjustment with the slicker equipment on the main tables, but I'll tell you, with Ruiz trailing 7-3. Talked about Ruiz at the European Open, that nice shot there and a nervy shot, just getting by that 6. Now long and straight on the 2. Good thing the 3 goes in the side, but nothing easy. But I talked about Ruiz because I think he's similar to Filler in a sense to where he really took advantage of the break format before and kept a lot of pressure on his opponent, you know, running a lot of racks. And I think there are some players that are going to have to make a little more of an adjustment, mentally maybe, more than anything, with the new break format, even with a guy that's a, top 5 in the world right now.
Good signs there in that shot as well. That was nicely, confidently cued.
Oh, yeah, she's not going to, I mean, if she gets some decent starters, and gets in position with the cue ball, she's not going to miss the hangers, I don't think, overall.
She's been a gold medalist at the European Championships. There's a recent win over Kelly Fisher to her name.
Well, I don't know if you can tell. I can kind of tell without, really knowing Margaret that well, but watching her earlier also, she gets very involved in herself, which is a key sign and a key component to not only winning as an underdog, but playing your best pool.
Well, what do you mean by that? Just in terms of being focused? Yeah,
I mean, you're never going to really just lose the moment, that you're in, but, when you train a certain way, getting into your process and your routine, it kind of just makes you, kind of dilutes a little bit of what the moment's about and who you're playing. And some shots early can help that, of course, to be able to get into that routine.
They both won 9-7 in the previous round. Van Boning's match against Joey Tate we've talked about. Fefilova came through 9-7 against Stephen Folan, who made a real fight of it towards the finish.
But you'll notice how simple she keeps it, not trying to get too close to her work, just gain that angle to move the cue ball easily around the 8. Coming 2 rails right at the 7. She's looking at maybe drawing this ball. I thought she would definitely run the cue ball. Maybe the tip's rising right now. Oh, she cheated the pocket nicely. Now she definitely has a 2-rail angle to run the cue ball for the 8 in the upper left. Just got a little bit into the cue ball, so kind of stunned off that ball, maybe to get a little better and maybe not use as much side spin on the shot. She could have ran the ball with like a high right, kind of using the spin to come out 2 rails versus stunning. And nothing wrong with either one of those. Just sometimes the stun on the slick felt, it draws a little bit more than you think, and it almost got the best of Margaret right there.
Ideally would have liked another roll or 2 there, but I think it's still back her to make it 2-2 here.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart young lady. She's not going to hit this with a ton of pace. Just a nice medium stroke.
Yeah, and that's a run out from the break. So from 2-0 down, Margaret Fefilova Styer was levelled against the world champion Shane van Boening at 2-all. Keeping an eye on FSR, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Been talking about that race for those 2 further Mosconi Cup spots to be confirmed at the end of this tournament. He's the front runner in those standings at the moment, behind Joshua Filler, who's already secured the first place on the team. Well, Sanchez Ruiz trailing 7-4 against Jera Vitoranta of Finland. And Petri Mäkinen, also from Finland, now on the hill at 8-7 against Woo Kun Lin. Corey Jewell, he's got off the mark. He's won the 5th rack, but trails Victor Zielinski 4-1. And Chang Yun Lin, as we've said, was runner-up to Shane van Boening in this championship 6 years ago. And he's leading 3-0 against Sandra Kont of Estonia.
9 ball flying towards the side. I think we're going to get some of that from Margaret, you know, in comparison to her opponent. We don't really expect too many dry breaks, or a little bit thin there on the 1 from Margaret, as you would from Shane. But, you know, the break rule is another interesting thing, just because you look at the Mosconi Cup, for instance, they've announced now that we will play the Mosconi under this break format, and I certainly can't speak for Alex. But I mean, when it comes to your picks, you know, if you have, like, you know, 4 guys in mind that has a chance to have one of those 2 picks, I think the break format can certainly sway in that decision a little bit, not only for the break shot itself, but understanding there's a lot more tactical pool involved now.
Well, we love it at the Mosconi, don't we? The tactical exchanges with so much hinging on it and the crowd getting involved.
Yeah.
That epic rack that you had, Jeremy, when you had to step in and against David Al-Qadi on night 3, I think it was.
Yeah.
At Alexandra Palace last year.
Yeah, that was, I'll never forget that one for many reasons, of course. But yeah, I think as spectators and fans, we don't give them enough credit on appreciating some things and again, getting into the decision-making of the game. And I think that's what fans want to get involved in a little more often. And, you know, if we break in the ones over the corner, well, not a whole lot of decision-making going on that. He's going to try and move the cue ball out a bit. He wants to gain an angle to try and create something on the 4, and I don't think he got where he wanted. He would have liked to have gotten below it, kind of like on the angle the 8's at, to where he could come 1 row into the 4-9. And I'll tell you, I think Tyler played a really solid match in his opener. I watched quite a bit of that after trailing early as a big favorite, but I think he's going to have a close one with Lucas. I was very impressed with the way Lucas handled a little deficit early in that first match and played very strong from there.
And he's leading Styer 2-0 now.
Yeah, well, Lucas, you know, we had a big junior event at the International a few years ago. He played incredible to win it. I don't think he's probably in the junior event here, which we haven't talked about much, but we will as the week goes on. I think he's a little out of that age, but certainly a kid and a young player that's looking to make some noise on the professional level. And you notice that's the exact kind of shot I was talking about earlier with Roberto. You notice how he kind of smoothed it up the table. Off that full angle, if you really get into it, it actually doesn't travel as far. And now looking maybe for a cross-corner bank. He's got a little bit of a big pocket with the 6 there. Couple different ways you can shoot it. You can shoot it with a high ball, kind of crossing it over. You can draw it like with low right. I think Shane doesn't really want to slow roll this though, so I think he'll have a little pace on this. Nice shot. Oh, I thought that would creep in.
Yeah, I think even after it had stopped, he was standing there looking hopefully.
Yeah, now Margaret, who I would suspect probably pretty handy with the jump cue. Her husband, of course, very good with the jump cue. And that just kind of shows you after one day the tables are changing a little bit. And she's really got to go for the jump. The kick is a possibility, but most likely on that type of kick shot, you know, if you do make it, usually follow it in with the cue balls. So. Yeah, caught the 6 first anyways.
Yeah, it was a tough spot to be in. And now it looks pretty much guaranteed. Van Boening is going to regain the lead.
Yeah, this is the out you want for the title here when nerves are super high. Hard to mess this one up. Everything kind of just leads towards the next ball.
Speaking of the title, we were talking earlier about the fact that he's tied for the record at the moment with Earl Strickland on 5 US Open wins. Neither of them has ever lost a US Open final. 5 out of 5 in those, and in fact Van Boening, every time he's got to the semis, he's gone on to win it.
Yeah, well, there's been certain players in their career, once they get to the finals, Earl definitely one of them. If you look at his career, unbelievable in the finals. They always talked about, of course, Mike Siegel in that kind of situation. Shane Van Boening certainly the same.
So Fefilova was put in a tough position with the jump shot. It didn't work out for her, and from there was a real inevitability about what happened next. So Van Boening regains the lead at 3-2. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is charging back well. He's only 1 behind now against Jere Vitaranta of Finland. That's 7-6. And Petri Mäkinen, also of Finland, has now won 9-7 against Woo Kun Lin. Eklund Kachi in a real battle with Vidali Patsura. It's taking a long time, and it's 5-all now. Corey Jewell has won 2 in a row to close to 4-2 down against Victor Zielinski. Sander Kont is off the mark against Chang Young Lin. He's taken the 4th rack. He's now 3-1 down. Daniel Maciol of Poland, 2 away from victory, leading Jeff Beckley 7-4. Omar El Shaheen, former World Championship runner-up, as we always describe him, has won the 1st rack against Ernesto Dominguez, who was the last player through to this round. Lo Ho Sum, World Masters finalist, has won the 1st against Juan Carlos Exposito. Thomas Kaplan going well at 4-1 against Cash Keaton. And Chris Reinhold is 2-1 up against Thomas Haas. And just to update a couple of those scores, Daniel Maciol now on the hill at 8-4 against Beckley, and Victor Zielinski has gone 3 clear again against Corey Jewell. That one is 5-2.
Yeah, Chris Reinhold played a super solid match in his first. Of course, he was a pretty big favorite, but talked about him yesterday to a few people. I expect him to have a good U.S. Open here. I think he's in a good place with his swing. I think he's kind of taken some pressure off of himself a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised you see like a final 16 or final 32 or even better from Chris, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, he's someone we've known about for a long time. You showed a lot of faith in him, of course, in a Mosconi Cup sense, and he's done reasonably well, I think, in that environment. But we're waiting for him to really come through and deliver on that potential in an event like this. He's fallen a long way short of it so far, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think, Chris kind of sometimes, in the midst of a match, doubts himself and understands that maybe he doesn't know all the shots, but you got to leave that doubt behind. That execution will overcome a little bit of a mental, you're not going to make that bad of a decision is my point. You might not make the perfect one, of course, but it isn't going to be a terrible decision. So he's just got to key on his execution and rely on that.
If he does make the team again, he's got to change his surname again, and then he'll have played in 3 Mosconis with 3 different names. Was known as Chris Robinson, of course, when he made his debut in Coventry back in 2020. The COVID Mosconi, I think you described it as, Jeremy.
Yeah, and he played well there, and just kind of like last year had one big miss that kind of got him a little not negative, but just maybe losing a little confidence.
Yeah, and that was identified as a big moment in the whole thing, wasn't it? Sandra Comte there looking to get back to 3-2 down against Chang Yung Lin.
Good to see Chang here. I know he's been, during pandemic, he actually started playing quite a bit of Chinese 8-ball. Actually even changed his fundamental a little bit accordingly. All right, Shane. He's getting that cue ball to drop below the rack, so that's a little concerning, but really focusing on making that 1 in the side. Can he get to the top of the 2 on the left side of his left side of the 2? If so, I'm sure he brings the cue ball up behind that wedge of balls, that being the 4, 5, and 6. Just lays the 2 behind the 8-9. Real natural here. This could get nasty for Margaret. Now, if this nestles up on one of these balls, which I would have been a little more aggressive myself, but I guess securing the snooker was always good. And the only reason I say be a little more aggressive is it laid there to do so. The 2 was always going to be behind the 8-9, and you had 3 balls to really nestle the cue ball up on. Now a very doable kick. Oh, didn't expect that. Well, Shane's going to have to play a pretty nice shot getting from the 3 to the 4. You can see it pretty nicely covered up by the 5 and 6. Good thing 3's near. So I wonder if he's going to run the cue ball for an angle on the 3 in the side, or I probably just lay it for the corner, but Shane doesn't mind this at all. Now he can kind of drop the cue ball with a little draw stroke for a little cut on the 4. And I think 2023 is going to, oh, he's gotten super thin on this. This is like really thin. I think you take a second look at this. Okay, no problem for SVB, but I think 2023 is going to give us even more, Michael. I think there's a lot of players, for one reason or another, couldn't make events, maybe testing the waters to see what some things look like with some new events, but realizing that it's heading in a great direction, and 2023 is going to bring even more great players out.
I think we're going to be hearing about the full schedule for next year in the coming days, and I think it's going to be an even bigger one than this year. Shane van Boening has done very well consistently throughout this year's schedule, and for the second time in this match, he's won 2 racks in a row now, and he goes 2 clear once again at 4-2. Now, just to bring you up to date about what's going to be following this, next up on this table, we're going to have some matches from the loser's side. On table 1, it's going to be Riku Rompainen against Payne McBride, so a transatlantic clash of the youngsters there. And over on 2, it'll be Dimitri Yongo and Ki Woo. They'll be the next matches on. Now, I've got to say, I'm very impressed and more than a little envious of Jake Asby from Matchroom, because this is the sort of stat I normally love coming up with. USA have only won the World Cup of Pool on one occasion, which is a bit surprising, and it was 14 years ago today. Shane van Boening was on the team. So back in 2008, on this day, they had that victory. Do you remember who his partner was?
Rodney Morris.
Absolutely.
The Rocket, former U.S. Open 9-ball champion. 1996, 95, 95, I believe. Actually won 2 pro events in a row, which was so hard to do back in the day. Still incredibly hard to do these days as well.
Yeah, it was 96 Morris won the US Open.
96, yeah.
Beat Efren Reyes in the middle of that run of 3 final defeats in a row for Reyes.
Yeah, 96. He had won a tournament in Puerto Rico the week before, or maybe it was 2 weeks before, but the Rocket was such a unique player. As you ever got to see him in his, what I considered his real prime right there in the mid-90s. Just something special and very unique. Something about them lefties. Okay, I understood why she wanted to put some speed into that. Still kind of felt like maybe rolling that. I understand there was some risk both ways. Now, I think there's a 1-2 combination she should definitely attack. And Michael, I have to do all that by memory, by the way. I don't have the computer right in front of me.
Oh, now you're giving away the secrets here. Some of it you remember, but it's nice to have.
Absolutely.
Nice to have a comfort blanket there.
Yeah, a little
just to check things.
Confirmation. Okay, funny shot here. Not, I mean, a very makeable bank, but very hard to gain position. See if she banks the one up table. There's some other safety options here, but this is okay. You need to get the snooker in that spot, though. That's the difference in professional pool and that next level or 2 down. As the great players, even though there's 9 foot of distance, there's not a ton of options. They usually find something that works. She's clipping the 1 into the 3, bringing the cue ball all the way down by the 6, I believe. Trying to use the 9. Another part of the game that obviously you can't win 5 U.S. Opens without having that part, but I don't think Shane gets enough credit at times for the tactical side of things.
That's what often happens when you're so good at the attacking side of the game. People almost overlook that you've got the other skills, but as you say, you've got to bring the whole package.
Okay, she should go for the long rail bank here. Bring the cue ball. Oh, she hit the right side of it. It's not going to work out. It's not going to worry about getting close to the 3 here. Well, played a little more into it than I thought. Didn't want to roll the ball. If he rolls it, cue ball's about in the same position, believe it or not. Just 1 rail. Needs a little draw here to get the proper angle on the 4 to easily stay on the 5. Now Shane, he may drop to the bottom rail just because he's such a good spot to do so, just slightly underneath the 5. Now if there's any risk on a shot like that, you just stay above it and play from there. But when he's in such a good position, that natural angle from underneath makes things very easy.
Speaking of easy, I think he'll like the fact that it hasn't all been easy for him in this match. I mean, what does he gain out of going out there and winning 9-0, 9-1, other than getting into the next round? The fact that he's coming up against an opponent who looks comfortable out there and has posed some questions to him, that's just how he wants it, so long as he wins in the end, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And unique pressures will tell you a lot about yourself. a unique pressure he had in the last match against an up-and-coming junior. And Shane probably being one of his heroes, I'm sure, but it's not like being down or against another player, right?
And let's not forget, on his way to the world title early in the year, just think of all those close finishes he had. It was actually the final against Alban Ocean was one of his more comfortable matches. Anyway, he's 3 clear for the first time at 5-2. Corey Jewell has just won the 9th rack against Victor Zielinski, but he's trailing 6-3. Omar Al-Shaheen absolutely flying 4-0 up against Ernesto Dominguez. Chang Young Lin, one of those players, in fact, who gave Van Boening a real close one on the way to the world title in April, is 5-1 in front now in that match we looked in on against Sandra Kont. Daniel Maciol on the hill at 8-5 against Jeff Beckley. Still 7-all between Francisco Sanchez Ruiz and Yera Vitoranta. Thomas Kaplan with a 5-1 lead over Cash Keaton. 5-2 here to the world champ.
Another American player who's made some noise in the U.S. Open before. Doesn't play full-time. Donnie Mills, I think, about to tee off in a winner's side match.
Play Niels Foyen. Yeah, that's a big test.
And I'm sure those two have played before. I think Donnie did finish maybe 3rd or 4th in the U.S. Open one year.
He beat Tomitaka Koji earlier today, 9-5. Fine got through without losing a rack, 9-0 against Edward Epperson.
Well,
world champion Fine.
Yeah, Niels definitely knows he's got to be on his game against Donnie. Donnie actually finished 2nd at Turning Stone this year, I believe, in the last event against Jason Shaw. That's an event that, of course, isn't the caliber of this event, but does carry some very, very good players and some champions as well.
It's got a long history too, hasn't it? A lot of heritage to that tournament.
That's right. Okay, funny little shot here if he's rolling it. This position I was talking about, did he get enough bump on the 6? He did.
Big news, Yera Vitoranta is now on the hill against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. It looked as though maybe the World Cup winner from Spain had weathered the storm, and he may yet, but he's going to have to win the last 2 racks now, or he's off to the loser's side.
Now Shane looking at coming, which side of the 8 do I want to come? It looks like he doesn't want to float between the 8 and 4. A little dangerous with the side there, so he's going to come out to the center. Take a little cut shot. A little let up on the swing there. I don't know if you noticed it, Michael, but Shane sometimes, gets a little quick with the backswing and has a little let up into impact, and that's what we had there.
Yeah, it was very apparent, and we can see it there again on the replay, and it showed in the outcome of the shot.
And really fortunate enough for Shane, it was a pretty easy shot. You do that on a more difficult shot, you usually don't make the ball. I think he's got to contact either the 6 or the 8 here. Watch out for the side pocket with the cue ball. I think he's cut off. I think he's cut off, and even worse, he's a little bit on a kiss trying to run the cue ball safe. I think he can't avoid the kiss, but it's touchy. He may go for this bank here. Pulling the cue ball with low right English. This kind of bank here, if you hit it high, it's hard to hang it, and it comes to the end rail if you miss. Just don't hit it low to the bottom rail. Oh, wow, that's hard to do. Usually wants to hit the pocket and go in from that angle or get back out to the center.
Huge moment of opportunity now for Fefilova. If he'd offered her at the start to be only 2 behind after 8 racks, she would have been very pleased with that prospect, one would imagine. And she's got the chance here.
You could see that 6 ball caught that point just right to flatten it out and make the 6 kind of hold up near the pocket. Now be aggressive here. Don't just kind of dink this in. Come 1 rail towards the 7 with the cue ball. At least get to where about the 8's at. somewhat like that, and that'll do.
Huge moments in the match this. But I feel it's an opportunity she must take. When she's had situations like this in this match, Jeremy, she's been pretty clinical, you would have to say.
Yeah, you know, she surrendered the table on a difficult jump shot, fouling, you know, with a narrow gap to go by the 6. I think it's been the break that slowed her down more than anything. When she's had an open shot, really solid. This is just high with a hair left English. And this is all about how you like to shoot the shots. I mean, you can hit a little downward on the ball if you want, but your touch goes away. Normally it's just high, like I said, with a hair of left. And a smart shot.
Not the landslide many people might have been expecting. Nothing like it at the moment, in fact. Shane Van Boening looked like he was going to make it 4 racks in a row. But broke down, and Fefilova has capitalised to pull back to only 2 behind now. It's 5-3. Her husband Tyler Styer is struggling though. 4-1 down against Lucas Fracasso Werner. Thomas Kaplan is now 6-1 up on Cash Keaton. Loho Sum is a 3-2 lead over Juan Carlos Exposito. Chang Yung Lin now leading 6-1 over Sandra Kont. Ernesto Dominguez has broken his duck against Omar Al Shaheen. He now trails 4-1. Victor Zielinski 6-3 up on Corey Jewell. Eklund Kachi maybe getting to grips with things at last against Vitali Patsura. He now leads 7-5. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, as we've been saying, is 8-7 down against Yera Vitoranta. Back here, it's 5-3.
There's that one on the side. The 2's going to come available, I think. It certainly is. So a missed 4-ball early. Maybe Shane took his eye off of. Margaret took advantage of getting out, put a break and run together. Now a missed 6-ball position, missed bank. She gets out. She has a chance to put another break and run together. That's how you get back in these matches.
Yeah, she had a break and run to draw level earlier at 2-all. Should say, of course, it's not really been mentioned because I think most people were expecting Van Boening to win this comfortably. She would play her husband in winners' qualification if they both got through, echoing what we saw with Josh and Pia at the European Open back in August. And we understand that's her good luck charm. What sort of animal is that now? Is that a bear or a dog? Or?
I think it's a dog. Yeah. I think most of it, yeah, it's just a brindle, if you know what that is, the type of skin configuration where they have the multiple colors in there.
I had absolutely no idea when I brought that up. I was clearly in the company of a dog expert.
Well, I've got 5 at home.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah.
You've got as many dogs at home as Shane Van Boening has US Open trophies.
Yeah, probably. It'll be a close contest on who gets our 6th, I guess. But yeah, she's in a great spot here. Just, you know, a little preference here on how you want to play it. I kind of like going forward with just a hair check, getting that nice natural angle to come across off the 6. Looks like she's kind of stunning. I know she kind of rolled a little in between, but now she may have to draw the ball more. Yeah, which is definitely the case. She goes forward a little more there, Michael. She gets a real natural rolling angle kind of to come back, which, again, is a little preference. Just got to pay attention to the speed. Watch out, corner pocket. She's going to be okay, but that's the thing. When you have to get into the ball to move it a little bit more, you lose accuracy a little easier, I think.
Gone hill now between Francisco Sanchez Ruiz and Jere Vitaranta.
And Margaret doing a lot of what, you know, the top players would like to be doing with this break format, putting a break and run together after winning a game. Now she's going to do it again. That's exactly the formula to win matches and pull off upsets.
Well, a couple of minutes ago, we were looking at her good luck charm and talking about it. No luck required there. Her second break and run of the match. She's won 2 in a row for the second time in the match. And now trails the world champion by just 1 at 5-4. So another look at the scores. As I've said, FSR and Vitaranta now gone hill. Victor Zielinski 7-3 up on Corey Jewell. Chang Yun-Lin has a 7-1 lead over Sandra Kont. Niels Fine has won the opener against Donnie Mills. Chris Reinhold now 4-2 in front against Thomas Haas. And going well for Lucas Frakasso-Werner at 5-1 against Tyler Styer. Even better for Thomas Kaplan of Poland with a 6-1 lead over Cash Keaton. You see some of the scores going through there. You can keep an eye on your favourites. This is the loser side we're now looking at. Remember, if you get beaten at that stage, you're out. Robert Frost, who we were talking about earlier, I know you rate him highly. Jeremy, 6-2 in front against Daiquiri Turnquest. What a story unfolding here for the second time today involving SVB. Only one in it now.
Yeah, missed that one ball. And it's almost like occasionally she gets a little quick, like trying to create power. And it kind of works against you that way a little bit. But nothing easy here for SVB, especially a 5-4, the scoreline, and coming off a mistake a few games ago. And I'll tell you, you know, Tyler, I don't think probably is struggling over there. I'm guessing Lucas just probably isn't giving him a lot of time at the table. What he did to his Chinese Taipei opponent in the first round after trailing just kind of sat the man down in his chair for some time. All right, really got to get a lot into this to work the cue ball down to the bottom rail and then back up for the 2. I'll tell you, couldn't have set up better for him anyways.
That is what you call absolute perfection.
Yeah, well, Shane, if you ever watch him practice, he'll practice probably the first 2 or 3 hours with a similar shot, shooting it with a lot of speed. Coming off the end rail with it now. Still a little tricky here. You may have to play this 2 in the corner just to hold position on the 3.
Good call. Now he's, in the course of those 2 shots, already carved out a very good chance here to reassert himself and go 2 clear again.
Well, you talked about Shane, you know, it being a good thing that he's played some close matches and some kind of unique pressure. If you ever talk to Shane, he's a I don't even know how to really state it, but he's a true sportsman of the game. He would like the tournaments to be set up to where it's tough match right from the get, every match, and let's see who can really play the best from there.
Look at his run through the single elimination stage in the World Championship. As early as the last 64, 11-9 against Baram Lotfi, and the famous comeback from 10-3 to beat Mika Immonen, 11-10. And even after that, he had a couple of 11-8s in a row against Ko Pin Yi, Chang Yun-Lin, who really put it up to him on that Saturday night. And it was the semi-final and the final were probably his most comfortable matches in that single elimination stage against Kazakis, 11-7, and then Ocean, 13-6.
Yeah, well, traditionally, you know, he's done so well in the U.S. Open because it's more of the setup he wants, the highest pressure, usually the tougher conditions, the tougher layouts, and that's where he really feels like his advantage is. And I couldn't agree more, to be honest with you.
played a couple of nice shots early on to create the good chance here. And having lost 2 in a row, Shane Van Boening really needed to win the 10th rack, and he has. He's 2 clear once again now at 6-4. Still no white smoke emerging from table 18. That hill finish between Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz and Yera Vitoranta. Ernesto Dominguez has just won the 7th rack to pull it back to 5-2 down against Omar Al-Shaheen. Loho Sum and Juan Carlos Exposito level at 3-all. Chris Reinhold now just 1 in front of Thomas Haas at 4-3. Thomas Kaplan 7-1 up on Cash Keaton. And Tyler Styer's got one back against Lucas Fracasso Werner. He now trails 5-2. And Boening needs 3 more.
Yeah, 1 in the side. I'd hit a little high. May have gotten a friendly kiss there, keeping the cue ball on the table, and he's absolutely perfect now to extend that lead. And after the last opener on the 1 ball he made, this one much different. Very easy to pocket the 1, just about gaining that position on the 3. Wanted to get a little more out of that, but should be okay. Very natural to come across. You figure him to gain 2 rails with the cue ball here.
Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz had to go to the 1-loss side of the draw on his way to the UK Open final in London back in May. Well, he's not going there this time, at least not yet, because he's come through against Yera Vitoranta. He's just won that deciding rack, so he survives 9-8 and will now play Janiuski or Michael Schneider in winners qualification.
He's gotten pretty straight here, maybe fallen actually away from the 6 a hair. I don't think that'll change any decision to just draw the cue ball back maybe a foot to 18 inches. And Shane's always a serious customer at the table, but I'll tell you, no matter this outcome here, Margaret should take this as a compliment, because what I see is a 100% focus from Shane here, making sure nothing bad happens and gets Margaret back to the table on a mistake.
One thing they actually have in common, I would say, is that they both treat every shot with great respect. I've noticed with Fefilova, she's maintained the same rhythm throughout, whether it's one of the more challenging shots or one that's very routine. And that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's, like I said earlier, going through your process, your routine, however you want to label it. You're always going to realize it's hill-hill. You're always going to realize it's a tough shot. But it just lessens it a little bit. And as you keep doing that, you really, what happens is you start to rely on that routine, and it becomes a very good thing.
Shane Van Boening led 5-2, got pulled back to 5-4, but he's 3 clear once again after running out from the break in rack 11. He's just 2 away now from victory at 7-4. Chang Yong-Lin has won 9-1 against Sandra Conte. So he'll now play the winner of Nicolas De Leon and Francesco Candela. The Italian has won the opening rack in that one. Victor Zielinski has beaten Corey Jewell 9-3 and will now play Daniel Massiol, who was a 9-5 winner over Jeff Beckley.
Looks like John Moore is going to start another match soon, so he's had a little time to recoup after that big missed 8-ball at Hill Hill against Roberto Gomez. You have to tip your hat to the pool players, right? Mentally, they have to be so strong, coming off big wins, big losses, getting right back in the box, and it doesn't get any easier for you as far as your opponents. Okay, 2 balls gonna work out fine for Shane. Everything open again, so should get extended on that lead. I don't think the 9's in the way. Of course, the camera can fool us a lot of times. Well, that camera shot there made me think otherwise, but oh yeah, definitely he's going to shoot at that, even if he has to jump it or swerve it just a skosh. Interesting now, he wanted to gain an angle to draw it behind the 4 to play it in the same pocket as the 3. Now I think he just levels out, rolls the 3 in, taking the 4 up long. Good thing for Shane is the 5's near. So really just burying this 3 and 4 is the main objective. Caught a little thin, so he's going to have more angle on this 4.
I was saying that Eklund Kachi looked to have taken control against Vitali Patsura. Less so now. It's now 7-all. It's been going for a really long time over on table 25.
Oh, that's a confidence booster, not only for right here and now, but that type of shot seems to come up later in the event a lot. And running that ball down the rail past the side is definitely going to make a difference in a match later in this event.
So it looks like more of what we had in the last rack. All very straightforward this time, but this match has certainly not been that. It was 5-4, remember. At no stage has Van Boening been 4 clear. Surely he's going to be in a moment.
Gonna draw up above, it looks like. All right, played for the side. Keeping it simple.
For the second time in the match, he's won 3 in a row. Shane Van Boening, a bit later than we might have expected, has made it to the hill at 8-4. Consider that he finally got that world title back in April, Jeremy. If he was to at last claim that elusive US Open record and win it for an unprecedented 6th time, you know him pretty well. But I think you probably don't need to know him all that well to know that he would surely regard this as the greatest year of his career if he could do both of those things in 22.
Yeah, and I don't want to feel this way, but I agree with you totally, but I'm afraid the guy might just, you know, get in his boat and go off into the sunset, and we might lose him for a few years.
You really think?
No. But I mean, you know, I know he is a guy that definitely wants to play some more, but it's not going to be till 60 years old or anything like that. So, yeah, of course, getting that 6th title, you know, it would probably make him just want to try and get the 7th and maybe a 2nd World 9-ball. You know, he's very motivated by, you know, the incredible events that have taken place this year and look to just improve. So, but I do think if that wasn't the case, these events, how incredible they've become and how it looks like they're going to improve and improve, I think Shane would consider retirement a little earlier than we might think.
I think, though, even if he was to play on just to the age of 50, and I think there's every reason to believe he'd still be at something like this level throughout that time. Think of the stats he could have by the end of his career. I mean, for example, he might have played in 25 Mosconi Cups by then. Right. And you think of the numbers he might have at the finish of his career. His career prize money as well, he's already on about $2 million. With all these big money events, that could be up maybe $4 million. Double Efren Reyes by the end of his career. The numbers could be astronomical if he can keep the hunger. And every sign is that winning the World Championship, as you indicated there, has not diminished that hunger even slightly.
Well, I think everything's adding up towards that hunger. I think the World 9-Ball Championships was like the icing, on the cake, as far as he likes, like I said, he likes it being tough from the beginning of the tournament, and that's going to get more so as we move on in professional pool with Matchroom involved, and the prize money is going to go up undoubtedly in my mind, and just a lot of things are adding up to keep him motivated, and I think even more so the young players. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Well, he would be really excited, wouldn't he, if a new generation of players were to come through and make the Americans that bit more competitive in the Mosconi. That, he's only won it 3 times in his whole career. He would love to change that stat. And if a team can be put together that will give him the chance of doing that, well, that in itself is a motivation to keep going and keep working.
Wow, nice shot there. He had to play that to the upper part of the pocket. Maybe a player noticed that, but if you watch the replay, the 2 went into the top side, and that was essential to avoid that scratch. And yeah, it just wouldn't be a U.S. Open without SVB, it seems. Watch where the 2 goes in here, Michael, to the left side of the pocket a little bit. That was to avoid the scratch, and what a shot.
Worth mentioning Joey Tate, who we saw come so close to beating Van Boening earlier today. He's in action at the moment on the one-loss side, but 5-4 down, perhaps surprisingly, against Stephen Folan of Canada. That's just race to 8.
Okay, interesting to see how he plays this. Guess he's going to come 3 rails to the backside of the 9. Top rail, side rail. About the middle of the end rail, come right at the 6 with the cue ball, just for some short side position. Oh, he played it light. That was surprising because, there's not a lot of room there kind of coming in at that angle. If you come back behind the 9 and come up into the 6 ball, you have a lot more options, it seems, but he's not going to get frisky or any risk here. He wants to just play the safety. I'm not sure he got it.
Seems a long time ago already since we saw Dalibor Nikolan from Serbia, the part-time tennis instructor, playing Carlo Biado, the defending champion, in the opening match on table 1. And he'll be lying in wait for Margaret Fefilova on the one-loss side, unless she can pull off a miraculous recovery.
Well, I think she's got a piece of this green 6 to clip it and run the cue ball a couple rails, maybe behind the 7. Now the thing is, can she get the 6 in a good place? Because she can't afford to hit this very thick and get behind the 7. Oh, she played it thin. So she's going to need a good speed. Not bad.
Eklund Kachi is on the hill at last against Vitaly Patsura at 8-7. That one's been going on for about 2 hours. Good deal more, actually.
Shane just trying to play a soft safety is what we'd call it. Of course, you're never getting the snooker, just trying to make things tough. I wouldn't doubt that Margaret goes for this long rail bank. She could track the cue ball behind the 8 a couple rails, but the 6 is going to be playable with the jump cue most likely, if not giving up a little gap there on a straight in shot. I like banking it by the 9 myself. You get a little bit of a bigger pocket, it could glance off the 9. I think if she goes for the lower left, she makes it myself. That's what I think.
We didn't see it, but we heard it drop. We'll get a proper look from here. In a sense, maybe she's playing without pressure at the moment. She knows she's done well in this match anyway, even getting the 4 racks. Nothing to lose from this situation. Every one she wins. Puts a better gloss on the performance.
Yeah, I don't really recall an open miss. I could be wrong, that's for sure. But like I said, mostly it's been the break that slowed her down. And she's had 2 breaking runs as well.
And she's still out there, only 3 behind. It's still a massive ask to turn this around. But she's now trailing 8-5. I think the one thing you want more than anything else in her situation is to go out there and feel you've given your best and not feel that you've not been able to adjust to the circumstances and the setting. And you want to go out there and show that you can cope with being on the big stage, and that stands to you. And there's been absolutely nothing to suggest otherwise from her.
Yeah, I haven't really seen tentative. That's, you know, being a player, when I've lost and been tentative, that's been the ones that have been harder to deal with. You know, swing the cue, you know, give yourself a chance, right? She's definitely done that. And if she can, you know, add another break and run like she's had twice already in this match after winning a game, you never know.
Really, even if it was to finish now, I think she'd walk away from this match with no regrets whatsoever. Still punching.
Yeah, because she still has matches to play, even if she is, you know, not in a position to win this match, and that's not a good sign there. Nice starter for Shane, and a 6-ball that's awfully funny, attached somewhat to the 9, but you got to believe these first few to get started are pretty simple.
It's not been the greatest performance of Van Boning's career or even his year by a long way, Jeremy, but he'll have no regrets really to take away from this either. Doesn't look to be anything wrong with his game at all.
No, I think really the 4-ball was up in the corner. He just took his eye off of it. Wasn't really like a, you know, it's one thing when you deliver the cue and you're really upset with the delivery. That can be alarming, but the 2 mistakes I saw were ones he can leave behind pretty easily, because you could tell he had some difficult racks in this match. It wasn't like all easy ones, right? And Shane, again, I think is the best in the world when the ball's laid difficult. Still to this day, I believe that.
Another winner to report. Omar Al-Shaheen has beaten Ernesto Dominguez 9-4.
Yeah, nice little 2-rail angle here to bump the 6-9 open and have a shot on the 5. Just like that.
Should be over now.
Yeah. And just that simple little situation there explains a lot about our new break rule. You know, when for years it seemed like where we never talked about guys having to open balls up during the run. It seemed like it was all about being very efficient with the open table because there was hardly any clusters, hardly any situations, or not that often anyways. Much different now. He's gotten a little funny here. I think maybe a high ball, he goes by the 8, but if he's going to take any chance there, he'll probably just draw out of this and take a longer shot on the 7. He really unload into this draw stroke. We'll see. Oh, he played it with a little inside running English. So still a little decision here. Does he come inside the 9 on the top side, or does he come with a little high ball and try and float 2 rails, below the 9? It looks like he's going to come tight of the 9, catching the 3rd rail on the side rail. That's got to slow down a little bit. That could fall below the 8, get a little funny. Oh, he's all right.
What a rare thing it is in big time sport to play a wife and husband in consecutive rounds. It may yet happen if Tyler Styer can turn around his current 5-3 deficit against Lucas Fracasso-Werner. It looks as though the wife of that couple is about to fall to the world champion, but Margaret Fefilova has every reason to feel positive about the way she's played. She was only 1 behind at 5-4. Had a couple of breaking runs.
Well, of course, Tyler has his hands full, but if he loses that, that means that Margaret and Tyler are kind of set up to play on the 1-loss side.
Shane Van Boening won't be going to the 1-loss side. Not yet, anyway. He's come through a tough challenge for the 2nd time today. He's beaten Margaret Fefilova by 9 racks to 5 and proceeds to the winner's qualification round in that quest for his record-breaking 6th US Open title. So the action will now be from the loser side. Next up on table 1, and if you want to enjoy that with Phil Yates and Carl Boys, that will be coming along in a few minutes' time. As ever, I'll look at the stats. Everything looking pretty good for Fefilova there. Very good performance from her. As you can see, just 1 missed pot in the whole match, and did everything to suggest that there are very good times ahead for her. Van Boening, though, the winner by 9 racks to 5.